Hello and welcome to the space. So it's been a few weeks or maybe even months since I last posted a video, and that is because I have been super busy. I took a long break from work. Um, I moved to a different country. Um, I changed jobs, all between the last video I posted and today. So it has definitely been busy. So today I thought I would share with you about change and how I view change. I think we've all heard that change is one of the most constant constants, right? Basically, what that means is that you can expect change, you can predict change. If there's one thing that you can be sure of that is going to happen, is that change is going to happen. And so, even though change can feel unpredictable, the fact that change is going to actually happen is not unpredictable. It is absolutely predictable, which gives us, the first opportunity to decide how we are going to handle change that comes, whether in our personal life, in our careers, in our relationships. We can go ahead and decide how we're going to handle change. And for me personally, I've decided that change is good. So, and it doesn't mean that I always view it that way, but I've told myself that change means I'm growing. If I don't like the change, it's an opportunity to learn a new skill, or to deal with a situation that will help me to deal with another situation later on in life. So I've just positioned myself that change is good. In the moment, I may not see that it's good. It may not feel great, but my position is that change is good. So that's my first thing. And so I try to lean into the change. Even if it's a bad change, I ask, or a change, not really a bad change, but a change that I don't see myself being part of. I can ask my questions such as, what does this mean for me? Maybe it's the time to move on, or maybe it's the time for me to do something different, or is it time for me to really review what is important to me? Whatever that may be, the change is an opportunity to grow. So you have to decide on what your perspective is around change for yourself. So that's number one. The second one is to sit down and really review the change and the magnitude of the change itself, right? So because sometimes there may be a change that is not a big deal, it doesn't even impact you, but if you don't sit down to review that and decide, the magnitude of the change, you may be putting energy into resisting that change that you probably should not be putting energy into resisting that change, right? So you need to step back and think about, the magnitude of the change that you are either about to experience or are experiencing. How big is the change? What does it mean for me? Is it going to be impacting me? Is it not going to be impacting me? It may be happening around me and it wouldn't be a big deal to me, but really take a step back and think about, what is the magnitude of this change? For me, that helps me a lot because I think our natural instinct is to resist change, right? So, this is how I've always done it. This is the route that I've always taken to go to work. This is how I drive to work every day. This is how I drive to drop my kids every day. What do you mean you have changed? You've blocked that road. Now I need to go figure out, where I'm going to go, or how I'm going to get to where I'm trying to go, right? So, you really, nobody gets up thinking, oh yes, I want change today. I want them to block the road that I use. I want them to change the whole computer system that I'm using and not say anything to me, right? So it's important to really think through that, and decide how big of a change this is. For me personally, it helps me to decide how much energy I want to put into resisting, or how much time I should be, resisting the change. So that's the second one. The third one is that there will expect a few growing pains with change, right? So depending on the change curve that you have seen, whether it's the Kubler-Ross change curve or any other type of change curve model, that there's always denial in there. There's always anger in there. There's always like a valley of despair where you just, the curve just dips downwards. There's always light, beginning to get better, in dealing with that change. And there's always the high moment of, success with the change. So, different people go through these stages differently, but if you can anticipate where you are in the moment with the change, then that really helps you to decide your positioning in that moment. Like, example, I'm really angry about this change. Then you already know how you're going to be hijacked. You already know how you behave when you're angry. You already know some of those things. And, I feel like it gives you a little bit of control, especially when most change feels like you don't have control over it. It gives you control over your reaction, how you're going to react to the change. You know that you're going to be depressed about it or angry about it at some point. You're going to be in denial about it at some point. You're going to really dip down into that valley of despair, but you're going to come out, better as well. So that's another lesson that I have learned. I think, one of the other bigger lessons is deciding what you have control over and what you do not have control over. I think sometimes, a change is happening. Let's say, an acquisition is happening in your company, or a merger is happening in your company. I don't have control over that decision. Even though it's impacting me, it will be impacting me directly. I really don't have control over that decision. So if I focus my energy on trying to change that decision, I guess I will be frustrated. And I know that I may be stuck in the valley of despair, or at the anger stage, or at the denial stage for a long period of time before I begin to get on board with the change. So it's really, for me personally, I've come to learn that it's important to decide what you have control over and what you don't have control over, so that it's really about managing your energy, right? You're really deciding how much energy you want to put into this. So decide what you have control over and what you don't have control over. And then the last lesson I have learned is really around support, right? So, how do I get support for myself? How do I take care of myself? How do I find the positive in the situation, right? How do I enable myself through the change? And for me, I've come to learn that is a really important aspect, because it gives me control over the change, whilst ensuring that I'm taking care of myself. I'm getting help. I'm not feeling alone, and I'm not stuck in the valley of despair when it comes to the change curve. So really thinking about where I can get help, who can help me understand the change better, who can help me position myself better, just really what support system can I put around me in order for the change to be successful. Right now, I had mentioned that I'm in a huge influx of change. I have so much support around me. I'm not afraid to ask for help. I'm not afraid to ask my sister to make food for me. Even though I'm a grown woman, I can make food for myself. I'm not afraid to to ask for that. I'm not afraid to ask for help in taking care of basic things that I should have been able to take care of. So I hope these tips helped you. Please comment and let me know how you deal with change and what are some of the lessons that you have learned. Thanks for joining this space.